Hi, my name is Matthew Adams. I'm a solution architect at Elastic, and I'm going to talk to you today about Eland, which is a new library for Python for Elasticsearch that replicates pandas. So obviously you can learn a lot more by coming to GitHub Elastic Eland, or you can come to the Read the Docs site, and that's where I went to start building out this quick example. But why would we do this? Why is it useful to have this kind of data science library for Elasticsearch? I think one of the biggest reasons is that Elasticsearch is hugely scalable and very fast at being able to analyze large volumes of data. And of course, if you're going to make decisions and build models and run aggregations, the more data that you're going to run across, the better those results are going to be. So being able to use the power of Elasticsearch with the flexibility of Jupyter Notebook is a really good combination. So obviously I came over to the documentation, and then I'm going to run through a quick example. So the first thing I did was build a cluster in Elastic Cloud. So this is an Elasticsearch cluster with Kibana. I made sure that I enabled a machine learning node. You could do this by running a small cluster locally on your laptop for testing. And I came to Kibana, and on the main page of Kibana you'll see this add sample data. I've come here and I've enabled the sample data, and what this means is that you can actually use the same data that I'm playing with today very quickly and easily. If we come back to the notebooks I started, we can start to run through a quick example. So obviously I'm importing the various libraries like Eland, pandas, NumPy, matplotlib, and also the Elasticsearch library for connecting to Elasticsearch. So let's just run that. So if you were connecting locally, you would probably do something like this, a local host, where it's just going to connect to a cluster running on your machine. But I'm running in the cloud, so I can provide a cloud ID and an authentication. I've created a specific user for this demo with the right permissions inside my Elastic cluster. What we can start to do is then connect to indexes which are sat in Elasticsearch and build data frames. So if I run this, we've now got an ED orders frame. So if I run this, we can see the columns that we've pulled back. So what you would expect for sort of an e-commerce data set. So customer names, locations, product amounts, that kind of thing. So each document, each row is a separate order. So now we can start to look at what that data looks like in a table. So here's some example data just using the sort of head command. We can look to see roughly how big this data set is, so 4,600. Not particularly big, but it's a sample data set. And we can start to do the kind of analysis that you might want to do. So we might want to build a histogram on the total order price, for example. But there's a lot more options because we're using Elasticsearch. So one thing I wanted to do is explain about the options in terms of filtering data using Elasticsearch queries. So what I did was I came back into Kibana and I built an index alias. So what this is saying is take the sample data, but actually build an alias that points to that data source, but actually filters it. So in this case I'm using a fuzzy query. So it's looking for a manufacturer with words that look very much like this. We can do things like stemming and stop words, for example. And then I can set the fuzziness. And then I'm also doing a geoquery. So it's looking for any records which have a geo-IP location within 1,000 kilometers of this point. Right, so that's quite flexible types of analysis you can start to layer on top. And then if we go back to Eland, all I need to do is point at this different index alias. So if we now run that and we look at the shape of that data, obviously we've now filtered down to about 544 records. And we can run a histogram on that data to see how it looks pretty significantly different because we filtered down just to a subset. The other thing we can start to do, instead of pulling all the data back into Python, what we might want to do is actually do as much of the analysis in Elasticsearch as possible. So in Elasticsearch we have this idea of transforms where we can pivot the data. That's actually in management transforms. you can quickly create a transform with this GUI. So I'm going to group by customer full name, and then you can start to add aggregations that you want to keep track of, things like cardinality or sum. And it's going to build a whole new index, which can be done on a batch basis or live. And then again, you can reference that index. So here I've run that transform to go from orders to a customer-centric index. So here I can now just reference customer transformed. If I run that and look at what that data looks like, I've now got a record per user, which can be very useful when you're doing various types of analysis. But you may want to do something like outlier detection, but in fact outlier detection is already built into Elasticsearch out of the box. So if you come up to the machine learning area of Elasticsearch, comes to DataFrame Analytics, you can simply create an outlier detection job and point it at that transformed index, and it can run over that data at scale inside Elasticsearch, and then again output that data to a new index with, for example, the outlier score tagged against each customer. Again, if we come back to Eland, I can just reference that data. So here I'm just referencing the customer outlier data. So here we've taken a load of orders, we've pivoted that data to a customer-centric view, and we've done outlier detection, all without having to actually do anything in my notebook whatsoever. And that's good because we can offload as much analysis as possible into the platform, and then we can just leave the custom analysis that we need to do running in Python, which is much more efficient and allows us to utilize a lot more data. This has been a very, very quick run through, and there's quite a lot more resources out there, including things like webinars that I will link to below this video. But so please, if you're interested, have a play with Eland, watch the webinars and read through the documentation. And if you're interested to hear more about Elasticsearch and Elastic products, please subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you.